Bruised knuckles and ballet shoes. Bruised knuckles and ballet shoes. I'm thinking about two stories, two characters, somehow feeding the same universal concept, despite on the surface being as opposite as imaginable. Rocky Balboa and Billy Elliot. One comes out of a world that values toughness in the most traditional sense, while the other pushes against what his world thinks toughness should look like. But underneath, driven by the same working class engine, neither sees himself as extraordinary, neither is handed permission, and both keep showing up to do the work because the dream matters more than pride, comfort, or image. What makes their cinematic stories so strong? Perhaps it's because we have loved to idolize heroes who reveal that the fibers of greatness always come by remaining embedded in the fabric of regular people. Bruised knuckles and ballet shoes. Middle class is the backbone of greatness, and if you look closely, you'll see great all over the middle. I've actually wrestled for a long time with using this analogy to introduce Jody Glenham. How do you call someone incredible at being in the middle in the pursuit of greatness without it sounding like a huge backhanded compliment? I don't have an answer. The fact will suggest maybe the streaming and touring numbers that make one believe they're making it or have made it are not there. Air quotes, made it, as always. But I wouldn't want you to ever conflate my ideas to suggest I don't think she is great. She is great. And she has had a career in music. She is the true middle class. She has sustained her community by working the industry jobs as well as making the music, playing in others' bands with fulfillment, not resentment, doing them all really well. It builds her community. And let's get really granular here. A majority of the artists who have appeared as my guests have built careers in the exact same wide range of the middle as well. I just never called any of them out to make a point in the intro before. Sorry, Jody. But let's expedite the compliment half and forget the backhand. Jody Glenham is an indie rock artist from Vancouver, BC, Canada. And about 10 days after this airs, she will have released her fourth full-length album in 20 years, sneaking in an EP and placing songs on multiple Netflix hits in there. Between the goalposts, she has been a regular member of renowned Vancouver artist Louise Burns' live touring band over the span of 8-ish years, currently playing with another band, Frankie, booking talent for local Vancouver venues, among other things. Jody is great at what she does. She has had a successful career in music and reaped the benefits of not being part of the majority crowd who call it quits because their equations to fame began looking like false promises. I needed to talk to Jody to affirm for myself and everyone who takes interest in my premises about chasing the dream that the strength of the Canadian music scene comes from bruised knuckles and ballet shoes, the grit that rises to the top despite all opposition. My name is Glen Erickson. This is Almost Famous Enough. Thanks for spending your time with us. This is Jody Glenham. It's nice to see you, Jody. This has been my goodness. Yeah, I knew where this one would have to start, which would be maybe painful for listeners, but I don't care because there's a little catching up to do. Like, so we knew each other when you were in Edmonton before you moved to Vancouver. That's how I know it. And I remember still touching base or interacting somehow while you were in Vancouver and finding what we were doing, but it's all really fuzzy to me. So, Jody, do you remember at all how we would have got to know each other than the Edmonton music scene and maybe having to just leave it
Yeah,
at that?
I moved to Vancouver this summer. It will be 20 years. So
Okay.
time flies. But I lived in Edmonton from 99 to 2006, and I worked at the Sidetrack Cafe. That was my first job in
That's got to
Edmonton.
be it. That's got to
So
be it.
I got as a I moved to Edmonton from Winnipeg
Mhm.
and got a crash course in all things music community related to Edmonton by working the door at the Sidetrack, and then I ended up serving there for a number of years, and Brent Oliver gave me my first real show at the Sidetrack opening for, Veda Hille and, Fort
Okay.
Pierre.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was the start of me in Edmonton, and then that would have been kind of how I guess we would have met. I think you were playing.
Oh, for sure. I and f to make it really clear, we're talking the OG Sidetrack, not the
Yeah.
second version Sidetrack, which was one of the most classic venues in Canada, well known. Yeah, so if you had your foot in the door there and the same for me, like, I was, you know, that's you said you left in 2006. Between probably 2003 and 2006, I was actively trying to access getting shows at at Sidetrack if I could, through Brent Oliver as well.
Mhm.
Gave me I started trying to run my own indie label then. I would have showcase nights there. In 2005, I started with the Wheat Pool, and we played a lot
Yeah, it was definitely the
there,
I
and
remember the Wheat Pool and, like, Chris Winters and James
yeah.
Murdoch produced my first record, and so just kind of, like,
Oh,
intermingling
ours as well, yeah,
all
for
of that.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that okay, that makes sense. I was sadly so fuzzy. I'm like, I should know where maybe more exactly we had intersected, and then now that makes perfect sense.
Oh, it was a long
Um,
time ago.
it
No,
was a
well, not
long
that
time
long,
ago.
but
Well, a lot happens in that time, and
totally.
especially in a scene, you know, you see a lot of people. You meet a lot of people. Um, so that totally makes sense. Okay, so I'm so glad that we've arrived at that part, and then you went to Vancouver, and you were and this part got fuzzy for me too, because I thought I knew this, but then now I'm second guessing myself. But you had a job in Edmonton at a shoe store on White Ave, I thought, and then you went to work at, like, the flagship version of that, and I've somehow ascribed that to Doc Martens, and I don't
So
remember.
I worked for Fluevog for 14 years, for
Fluevog,
John
damn it,
Fluevog, but
okay.
I got that job in Vancouver, so
Okay,
I didn't work there when I think
I
there's an
conflated the
Edmonton
2.
store now, maybe, but there wasn't one at the time. Yeah,
Okay,
Gravity Pope carries, John Fluevog,
okay.
but yeah,
I
um
conflated those, but that okay, so there was a partial truth in there that I knew that you were working at the Fluevog store.
Yeah, so I worked for them for a long time, and they were great as a musician. They were great to work for. Like they had in-house artist grants that funded a few of my recording projects, and yeah,
Wow,
so
really?
it was really neat to work there and to just to see kind of how they contributed to um, just supporting musicians. Like they did a collab with Jack White and um, I
Wow.
met Alice Cooper when I worked there, and it was really cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty wild. Like, yeah, that's like a way that like most people wouldn't think. Like, you know, the resourcefulness of like how people keep making their way along. Nobody would think that that could be a way because like even one album grant can go such a long ways for an artist, right? That'll float them for generating the next 2 years of work for them. You know, if
Yeah,
they
well,
can get
and
a record
their
out.
artist
So
grants weren't music specific. It was, like, if you worked for them
yeah,
for a
I was
certain
gonna
amount of
assume it
time,
was
so
yeah,
they funded screenwriting, they funded some playwriting, like, artist studio for, like, visual arts, artist studio funding, so there was, like, a
yeah.
whole gamut of, things that they funded over the years, which is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that is really cool. Okay, so Jody, I wanna get into this with
Mhm.
you because I was excited when I started to see these singles pop up on your socials, which I thought was really cool, and I remember that happening back in, I think, as well when you released music and it was getting some attention, and I remember thinking, "Oh, Jody's still making music." And it's funny because that sentiment alone right there just says so much about those of us who have existed for quite a while with friends who are musicians, right? That these gaps of time happen in between recordings and maybe you don't see each other all the time. So you make assumptions that maybe things have trailed off as they do for a lot of people, but then they pop back up. And so you've popped back up, and I thought this is something I want to talk about with somebody who um, is still making the effort,
Yeah, I
is to,
mean,
you know,
to speak directly to that, like, the EP is called Still Here.
exactly on
And,
point.
I really l the album I put out in 2020 was called Mood Rock, and I really, noticed there was, like, a direct response to the, um, I don't know, the immediacy of the name, just like the simplicity of like calling my record like the genre of music I think that
Yeah.
I make, like mood rock. And so I really went with that directness with the naming this EP as well. And every song has either like a theme about like growth or time passing, or it's just yeah, it just kind of like made sense to be like still here as a
I
human,
think it makes,
as a
yeah,
musician.
it makes
Yeah.
total sense, and I think that's, also some savvy in your planning
Mhm.
of
Well, and what's
naming
cool
and
is it's like I've seen it kind of pop up, like, I was watching this interview with Geddy Lee from Rush, and, like, the quick soundbite that they took from the interview was him saying, like, "Well, you know what? I'm still here," and I was like, I think it really resonates with people right now, kind of like this whole I don't know, we've had so many years past pandemic to reintegrate into society, but we're still
yeah.
figuring it out, so, yeah.
And that sentiment just in the artist's life period of what happened with the pandemic. I mean, everybody gets to make the joke about how they're kind of like time drunk through that phase. Like nobody can estimate whether it was 1 year, 5 years between certain things happening. But that in the life of an artist, I've talked about it with a number of people here, right? Was like an absolute, is just a hammer of like of threats to their very well-being, right? Is this idea of like the loss of attention, the loss of inspiration, the loss of community, all these different aspects.
The
Like,
loss of connection.
yeah, it just
Yeah.
really and coming out of that, yeah, we've been watching to see like who survives, who's
Mhm.
still here, um, who doesn't. So let me go back and sort of draw the line from when I first knew you and you started making music till now. I mean, we've sort of done some of the geography, but you sort of put out a first formal record. It's 20, this is like 20 years, like 2006, right? Is that, I mean, that's how the internet or Spotify shows your first album, but they're not always correct. So
Yeah, it was
is that
2006.
Brave New World record that was like 2006?
Yeah, I put it
Yeah.
out, um, yeah, 2006 and 2000 it feels weird to say that, because 'cause we're in 2026 and I'm just kind of,
Yeah.
like, tripping myself up a little bit with that, but, yeah, and I guess I moved to Vancouver short that same year. It doesn't really feel like it belonged in the same part of my life, but,
Yeah.
I guess I put out a record and was like, "Bye, Edmonton." Didn't mean that, but yeah, it,
Was that difficult? Was that disruptive? Like, I mean, part of getting momentum, especially back in that era as an indie, is so much about like local, like the CD release show was everything to people in that era. Local press, like the street rags, like would have been View Mag and C Magazine
mhm.
back then, and CJSR, CKUA Play in Edmonton. Like there was a lot of resources to sort of get momentum around a record. So to
Yeah,
kind of pull up and leave, did you feel that? Did you feel sort of
I think Edmonton was really supportive. Like, I remember View doing like, covering the album and, Sandra Spronis, the Edmonton Journal
Mhm.
did an article. I actually we name checked the sidetrack already, but I had it. My release show was booked at what was going to be the new sidetrack, and then I think 2 weeks before the record came out, just things weren't the opening date wasn't gonna hit, and so I ended up moving the show to Savoy on, White
Oh,
Avenue,
just
martini
yeah,
bar that I
okay.
was working at the time.
Yeah.
They were so kindly even though they didn't really host live music, we made it work. It was very I think it was like the prairie hospitality kind of thing came through. Uh, but yeah, I put out that record and kind of like I mean, things always take time, right? And
Yeah.
so don't remember how long it took to make that, but it would've like, we would have started that a year or probably even 2 years beforehand before it came out,
Yeah.
so, it was definitely, uh yeah, I feel like it was so long ago now, I can't
It
really
was.
remember
I
the
mean, I'm not gonna
details.
press you on all the
Yeah,
details.
yeah.
I mean, one of my curiosities for you, if you can remember, is, um, the change from Edmonton and Vancouver.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, you put out a record a few years later again, and so you'd obviously, like you just said, like, it takes time to get to that 2009 date. Who knows? It could have been 12 months, it could have been 18 months working on it, but, I mean, this is a thing that comes up for artists. I don't think I don't know, think I can't remember if we ever talked if the specific reasons you went to Vancouver, if it was just you needed out of Edmonton or you just wanted a bigger city, or if it was specifically the music
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, I was trying to decide. I knew I wanted to pursue a career in music, and I was trying to decide between Vancouver and Toronto, as one does, as a Canadian,
Mhm.
the 2 cities you have to choose from. And, at the time, I had musician friends that lived in Vancouver. So it was a really easy transition, to come
Mm.
out here, and I felt like I really hit the ground running when I got out here too. Like, I was, like, um, just invited into a music scene that was already happening, and then just, like, learned about all the different I was hungry when I came out to Vancouver
Mm.
too, so I was really, like, keen to learn, and, Vancouver is, like, a really interesting town where, like, um, something is I say this belovedly, but, like, something is kind of missing in that, like, socialization of Vancouverites, and I find that, like the prairie way of just like saying hi and putting yourself out there really goes a long way with making friends and getting to know people and like supporting other musicians that are playing and be like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
going to come to your show, and then you go to their show. So that I had a good start here, and well, because I had that community almost immediately, it made like it just very organically made sense that I ended up making another record kind of in the
Yeah.
first few years that I lived here.
Yeah. I mean, and you came from Winnipeg to Edmonton,
I
and
did, yeah.
Winnipeg renowned for how that music community sort of seems to just grow a lot of, like, really great artists and has a really great sense of community.
Mhm,
Um, so going from that to Edmonton to Vancouver and having those connections definitely makes sense that you kinda carried that, prairie ethic right across to Vancouver.
mhm.
Um, you kinda answered what I think one of my main questions was gonna be, which is, how important how much work sometimes it can take to build that community for yourself. Sorry. Even if, like, it's the players, like, you're a solo artist, so you have to develop relationship with players that you trust and that will trust you and be willing to sort of go through the discomforts of, like, playing for somebody else, like, saying yes to when they book shows or rehearsals and learning somebody's, everything from
Mhm.
songs to personality. Like, it takes time to develop that. You sort of indicated that already, but you had some of that, like you said, hit the ground running. And from the outside, I do remember my perception was it did seem like you hit the ground running and got in with the community pretty quickly. And that's an era of, like, to me, Vancouver was like just like huge for their community and what was coming out of it in
Well,
that era,
Vancouver
right?
still had CBC Radio 3 that was based
Yeah.
here, and I think that did a lot to facilitate, like, a good, healthy, connected community out
Yeah.
here. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
my second guest ever was Grant Lawrence on here. Like, I wanted to have my conversation with Grant and what Radio 3 did to create an indie rock scene across the country for so
absolutely.
long was
Yeah,
unbelievable. But yeah, based in Vancouver, and I think what I always on the outside loved my observation was, like, the choice you made the reference to the choice between Toronto or Vancouver, which is everybody who's not in those cities in Canada and gets to a point when, like, they ask themselves how seriously they're gonna take this, and then they're faced with that question,
mm,
either by themselves or somebody else is asking them. That Toronto is where the whole industry was, right? Like, the mechanics of it. And Vancouver, though, seemed to have less industry, but just way more attractive scene, like people, community, players,
They definitely, I mean, at
opportunities.
the time for me, like, they seem to have fairly equal, opportunity. Um, I mean, this was, like, 20 years ago, so it was before it was, like, social media, like, MySpace was really brand new, and,
Yeah,
uh, it was just yeah, it was interesting how that even, like, helped me make friends here in Vancouver even before I moved out here, like, I could kind of
mm,
like, keep an eye on what was going on and who was playing where, and, like, I reached out to people I didn't know on MySpace and asked them to play in my band or, like, asked them to produce my record, and social media made that
what a
question a
different
little less
world.
scary
Oh
than
my god.
trying to hunt someone down at a show and be like, "Hey,
Yep,
I just moved
yep,
here, wanna make my record with me?" So, yeah, I do feel like 20 years ago, like, there has been a shift and everything is far more Toronto-centric when you look at the industry, but also social media has changed the fact that, like, I don't think that Toronto or Vancouver question really, like, exists anymore because
I
you
agree.
can have a viable career from, like, any place if, you have the luck of the algorithm and the music's good and the art's good and all of that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I had completely forgotten, not completely. I frequently forget how how predominant MySpace was as the precursor to social media now, particularly in the musician's life. And that, yeah, like I think of it as even older, but yeah, 2005, 2006, 7, it was still this determining factor when we were all still worried about people downloading our songs for free off LimeWire or
Mhm.
Napster, which now seems so ridiculous in where we've seen everything go. But
Oh, and MySpace was so
yeah,
music-centric too.
yeah, yeah. And the amount of people I've talked to still, both musicians, but even just fans who were connecting with bands um, on MySpace, like in a way that it was social media, but it still felt different than what happens now. I don't know if you
Mhm.
feel the same way. Um, Definitely a different way to think about it and look at it. Um, so you've stuck around in Vancouver. You got a good job, like you were talking about, that really sort of gave you probably some flexibility and also supported you in very practical ways, which is pretty amazing to have happen. Um, but there's gaps in your making music and putting it out there, and I'm curious to know sort of what were the things that influenced the gaps, because I know what a lot of the common ones are, the ones that I've faced and seen others face. I'm curious about yours because you have a record in 2009, you have an EP in 2014, then we see the record in 2020, which really has a lot of like it gets you a lot of attention as far as the credentials on a page, especially too. And then a whole pandemic, and then now you're putting out a new EP in 2026. So, some people just quit their jobs, go and make music and basically sell the farm, and it's either make it or break it, versus what appears to me like just stay in the game by any means possible. And I'm wondering where you can tell me your pursuits have sort of landed and what those gaps came from and sort of how your journeys ended up this way.
Yeah, I mean, I've Vancouver's an expensive city, so I've, always worked multiple jobs. Like, when I was working at Fluevog, I was also bartending. I bartend at a winery now still, and I DJ, and, like, the DJing is a way in which I get to interact with music where I get to feel like I'm, like, 13 again, and I'm just, like, with my CD player and, like, just with my headphones, but it is also, like, it pays me really well, which is great. Um, so yeah, definitely it was a bit of the juggling and struggling that you do when you're living in a more expensive city, but then I also really found joy in contributing to other people's projects. And I was in a part of there's a musician, her name is Louise Burns. and I'm thinking about maybe, oh gosh, I can't remember when, 2011 maybe, she asked me to start playing guitar in her band, and then I was playing guitar and keys, and so I toured with her and her live band for about 8 years.
Mm,
And that led to some really cool opportunities. I got to do a tour in India, I got to tour Australia, we did, like, a Germany tour, so just, like, kind of these things that would come up that would I'd still get to play music, I'd still get to interact with the community and, like, go places. I got to, like, it was really cool to go to India
mhm.
and play basically, like, the Coachella of India, and just, like, that whole culture, um, you the you just get, like, thrown into all of it, which is so rad, and then you also get, like, taken around. You have, like, a your tour manager, so it's like it's a well-organized thing,
Mm.
um but, yeah, so I did dedicate a lot of time to those sorts of things, and, I sang in other people's bands, and I don't know, I just kind of I guess I've always been a bit of, like, a yes man, and so, if someone kinda, like, wants some keys on something, I'll do that, and then
Mm.
you start to realize you're like, "Oh, like, I'm still writing songs, but I haven't actually, like, chipped away at a recording project of my own in a while, so those wheels kinda start to turn. But it also that inspiration came to me, like, when I would, come across someone that I was really excited to work with. So that in one way with the Dreamer EP, I ended up working with this, producer out of LA for a bit, Raymond Richards, and, he worked on mood rock for a bit of mood rock as well, and so it's just kind of like finding those, like, those, I don't know, bits of excitement, or like the spark for the pilot light, just to kind of
Yeah,
to refocus back to myself. I
yeah,
also have ADHD, so I'm just kind of like all over the place all the time.
yeah. I know all about that. Trust
Yeah.
me, 100%. Um, I mean, okay, so I think what's really interesting, because I sort of framed this, right, as like a lot of people from the outside look at it like either somebody just sort of spreads and strings them out and kind of is staying in the game and play, or the person who does the more typical, like, I'm jumping off the cliff with this sink or swim, that sort of method. I think what's interesting, and this is a reason I really was excited to have a conversation with you, Jody, and also because what I'm seeing and what I'm hoping in a conversation to reveal, I think, is a side of a music career that doesn't get any. It obviously doesn't get any glamorization or special storytelling in the the legacy vaults of, like, how people have had careers for 20 years in music, is that it's not just about making your own records and building this giant trajectory of your, what I mean, your songs and your records, becoming the fabric of the music industry. It's people who, like what you're describing, like, love and find joy in participating in something that's not always just their own. Like, for you to give a large chunk of your time to Louise's career and playing, while still working through your own things, and as a songwriter, I'm sure always developing ideas and developing songs, even if they're not into this kind of cycle of music projects that is the typical career from the outside, or even the things you talk about, or even on the emails you send me now. And if I look at your email signature, a DJ at Fox Cabaret and booking for another venue,
Yeah,
you
I
know what I
booked
mean?
for 2
And
venues, and yeah.
yeah, and so there's this aspect where we start to blend in the things we learn, give us opportunities to work in the business. I mean, I've done like almost everything I can do in the industry since I played in the bands, and even while I was playing in the bands, like trying to run my own label, and then I would start promoting shows, and then I was an agent to a guy for a little while, and then I tried publicity, and I've been on boards of all kinds and grant funding and everything. So this is kind of what happens commonly. Um, I'm wondering how you've personally felt about it, I think, is really what I'm interested from you, Jody, if it's okay to ask, is like, is there that feeling of, for lack of a better term, this is an unfair way to frame it, so I'm hoping you'll reframe it for me fairly. which is like I didn't do it the right way, or this is like my career went this way, but I didn't like have a whole bunch of records and do the whole sold out thing. I'm wondering how you've kind of developed this mindset for yourself to kind of stay in it and find joy in doing all of these kinds of things and staying
Yeah.
as a career musician.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like from a young age, music has, I don't know, it's always felt like my purpose. I feel like I can describe it as that now, but I don't know if I would have described it from that from the get-go. It's just something I always it came very naturally to me. Uh and maybe something about growing up in Winnipeg where like it there's all these, I don't know, there's all these exciting stories of, the I mean, as a kid, like the crash test dummies, they're from Winnipeg. Like there were success stories from my hometown. So um it just kind of felt like it was something that like you could actually do. And then the doing, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's just what I've been trying to figure out for the last 25 years is how to do it.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Yeah.
Especially as a working class person, like I'm privileged enough to come from a middle class household, but so I had some lessons as a kid and my parents
Mm.
were able to like buy me a guitar and that sort of thing. But yeah, I feel like everything I've done has felt right. I guess maybe playing in someone else's band for 8 years led me to put out my records at a lower speed or capacity, but at the same time, like, they were it was a satisfying s experience.
Yeah.
Like, um, I developed a friendship with with Louise Burns, who ended up she does my vocal production now on my records,
Mm.
and she knows my voice so well that it is such a great work space to um because especially tracking vocals can be such a psychological thing. Your body is your instrument, and so just to be able to work with someone that I absolutely
Mm.
trust, and I do not need to get into my head over, was that take good enough? Do I need to do 20 more? Is my voice sounding tired? Like, it's just I don't have to worry about any of that. So, like, those kind of, like, deep, moments or, like, like, the trust that comes out of those types of relationships, I feel
Yeah.
really help make me or allow me to make better music. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that there is a real benefit to looking back and being like I could have, should have. If anything, maybe I would have moved to Toronto instead of Vancouver. Perhaps if I would have known like how Toronto centric the Canadian music industry was going to go. But that's also just the industry. That has nothing to say about that's not a reflection of the art that's coming out of
That's
any of
exactly true.
these.
And
So
Vancouver as an art producing city has been quite prolific in our country. I think it's undeniable.
absolutely. It's a beautiful, inspiring place to live.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes, but I also think that, like, brings people together. It has this, somehow it still holds on to this moniker of, like, "no fun city," but I cannot that is, like, that not my experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, I
Yeah, I
mean,
can't
it's
even participate in all the fun that happens here.
you might be causing all the fun. Um, I mean, it seems really apparent that you're so comfortable with each of your choices along the way that you've done a lot of different things, which I think is really comes through and is very cool to see. I know for me, like in the relatable factor, like I had to come to a point because the Wheat Pool became the thing for me, right? That band, and I was the guitar player, but I got into music making songs before I even played guitar, right? Because they were in my head and that's what inspired me so much. And I wanted to be part of that legacy, right? I wanted to be part of that fabric someday of the people who had made this music. And I know that I had to come to a place of being like, this is the best thing for me. Like I've made my own records. I've tried to write my own songs and I probably should have spent way more time trying to get better at it and make more records and just produce the volume. And I had my own little demons to fight about that 100%, about not feeling good enough or being pulled in multiple directions. But I did come to a point where I became very satisfied with realizing I think the best version of what I do musically is found with this group of 4 guys, and that
Mhm.
my voice was maybe more the guitar than it ever was songwriting, even though I always assumed it was gonna be otherwise. Um, that's not always easy for people to get to, I think, from what I'm realizing and talking to a lot of people. Um, was there a point for you in Vancouver where you just realized, like, this is like, I'm real was it while you were with Luis, what you were just when did you get into your most comfortable, like, this is, like, how we do things, this is how I'm doing things, this is how it goes?
Honestly, I feel like right before the pandemic happened, because I had finished Mood Rock. I It wasn't out yet, and that making that record was a big learning experience for me. I ended up working with 2 different producers throughout the making of it, and, by the time I got to the end, like, I was really proud of what I had made, and uh, I had gotten US work visas for my band. I had like a 5-piece band that was really
Mm,
cohesive and like felt like it was the right band to be like presenting that music. And like it was I had for that summer of 2020, I had already like booked a few US festivals, kind of bigger festivals than I'd ever was had played in the past as myself. And, so yeah, it was definitely like a there was a plug put in
wow.
that, that momentum, but, it also just the energy really shifted, like, in some ways, I was really grateful to have Mood Rock because I ended up putting it out in August of 2020. Um, and I was really grateful to, like, have a finished record at that time and something that I was able to, like, send around to people, and, like, people were home, people listened to things. I
Yeah.
ended up having telephone conversations with people who probably would have never been available, in a regular world, and so it led to a really like, a lot of really nice connections, uh, like, connecting with people through
Mm,
the music of that. Um but, yeah, and then, of course, just trying to learn how to rebuild that in a world that was very different,
yeah.
where, I didn't have the same energy output. We also during the pandemic, we got ourselves a dog, my partner and I, so and he's a bit of a problematic dog, which was a learning curve on its own, but as I like to say about him, lemons need love too. So, he's lovely, but just he's really big and, hard to manage sometimes. Um, so yeah, just kinda like that ended up coloring the amount of energy that I could put into being a band leader. Like, I still knew that I wanted to make a new record, and I knew that I wanted to, um, continue being Jody Glenham, but just the amount of yeah, so anyways, I ended up, like, shrinking my band down to, like, a trio, and, like, it was, like, just the 3 of us that worked on that record. I ended up producing the record myself, which was, like, really cool.
Hmm.
It did lean le led it led to it being, a bit it took a little bit longer, but as I've learned from my music career, I think it just takes me a long time to do things.
Yeah, and that's totally fair, right? Like, again, this is us accepting the things and not continuing to buy into narratives, I think, about how things are supposed to be or what should happen.
Mhm,
Um, is there is there a thing or have there been things, specific, like, instances that you can look back and feel like these are the things that kept you going? Like, a lot of people quit, Jody, I think is what I'm saying, and a lot of people don't, like, keep going with a sense of, like, hopefulness or a sense of, like, "I still have some things to do, and it might take me longer, and that's okay." A lot of people don't they just don't last from either unfair outside pressures or I think most of the time people implode. It's their internal narratives. What
Well,
how have you
I think I've always known I was a lifer. I'm a
Okay.
lifer. Like, I'm gonna be doing some sort of this. I don't know if it's gonna be
Mm,
exactly this. These are my interests. Like, my friends are all musicians,
yeah.
like, it's the life I've built around myself. And then I know I had a second point I was gonna say, but now it has eluded me. I need to start writing stuff down.
Oh, it's
Um,
okay. ADHD. This is
yeah,
my
I
problem
know.
on the podcast. Someone will start talking and I'll think of 3 different things at once, and
Mhm,
I'm so afraid I'm gonna lose them as soon as I start talking about one of them. So I totally get I totally get what you're
mhm.
saying.
But, yeah, sorry, I lost
No,
my
that's
train of
okay. Um, I think that's a great sentiment about being a lifer. Okay,
Oh,
so
and I think sorry,
okay.
I know what I was gonna say,
Okay, cool.
actually. Um, and I think it's really interesting that you use the word hopefulness, 'cause I that is, something that I I have people tell me that's what they get from my music. So
Hmm,
you're getting that from my outlook on life, but I feel like that is also what is being translated through the music
hmm.
too. Like there's just kind of you know, uh I've been told that my music gives people permission to feel things without like falling into despair and that sort of thing. I'm like, well, that's hope.
Yeah,
Like I think all you can really
that's a very
yeah.
specific sentiment.
Yeah, so I know there's a lot going on in the world and we can't fix everything and music for me fixes the my immediate state of being and I think that's like what I am I don't know, that's the sound I'm chasing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to connect with people so that I can feel better about existing and then it's really nice to hear that that is being felt on the
Mm,
receiving end too, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's jump into talking about your new record coming out a little bit because um, I've been listening to the songs as they've been coming out, and there's a few things that are so noticeable to me. I like the way that you just framed it about people saying that they feel hope and that or a hopefulness, or even I guess that resonates to me with thinking that it's a hopeful version of challenging themes, right? That like there has been an option where a song can just like, in order to make you feel something, can take you right down where it is versus the ability to connect with you without pulling you all the way down to where maybe the roots of a song is coming from. The first thing I noticed, by the way, is a couple of the songs, and this is more so than like on your mood rock album, your like vocal choices and style to when you sort of let the vibrato part of your voice kind of like take over, if that makes sense. It was bugging me for like 3 days. Like I'm like, this makes me think of something. Not bugging me in a bad way. It makes bugging me that I'm like, who does this
You
make
were
me
trying to
think
put
of?
your finger on
I
the
was
on what it's
dying.
yeah,
And then it was
yeah.
literally an hour before talking to you today. It's Jenny Lewis's Rabbit Fur Coat era with the Watson twins. When I listen to which song is it of yours? The, Good Fruit song, um, feels so Rabbit Fur Coat era with the Watson twins, especially when your harmonies come in on that song. I don't know if you've ever gotten that before, maybe you get that all the time, but it felt like that, and it took me forever to to nail what I was
I mean,
thinking.
that is the highest compliment. I am a big Jenny Lewis, Rilo Kiley diehard fan, and I really love, what Jenny Lewis has done with her career. I love her music. I feel like we'd be friends if we lived in the same I feel like if we lived in the same city, I would probably play in her band,
That's
at
awesome.
some point, but there's just, like, a lot of things that I really respect about her that I mean, I don't know her, but that comes through what she gives us as her personality
Yeah.
as the artist. I love that she is a part of Postal Service. I love so she plays in other people's bands. I love that she's written songs for movies. I love her sense of humor. Like there's just like a lot of and I think she's a phenomenal lyricist. It's just yeah, that is a very high compliment, so thank you so much. We actually in some of the vocals, we, used, like, some Jenny Lewis backups as a, vocal reference,
Okay.
when in the mixing aspect, so, like, EQing things so that they like, yeah, so there's some, intentional inspiration
Oh,
there,
I love it.
absolutely. So,
I
yeah,
love it.
yeah. You
Um,
figured it out.
I did, like, that's great. I love it. It doesn't always go in my favor, so I'm really happy that it did. Um, okay, so I do this thing where I use AI a lot, different all different tools, and I use one for research, which just sort of pulls in every little article you that would still have you in it, probably online, and compiles things. But I used it specifically about exploring the songs that you have out right now, and so it gave me this set of interconnected themes. It's calling it. So I want to run them by you and see if they're authentic and whether
See if
it's
they got it right?
if they got it
Oh.
right. So the first
These
one is
computers.
the theme of acceptance and presence. Does that make sense to you? It says, like, comparing to your previous vibe on the mood rock, it's more about patience and being present. Is that accurate?
For the songs on Still Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I think that's also I really like words that can be interpreted in different ways, and that's also why I liked the words "still here," is
Mm,
because there is the other meaning of it being, like, like, associated with patience and, like, just like you are being still here,
yep.
like, almost more of a verb of doing nothing, but or
Mm.
just being present. But yeah, it definitely I would say that is a theme, 100%.
What about community and shared struggles?
I'd say like that is a big thing about what I write about in general. Absolutely. Um, I really like when a songwriter obviously songs are very personal, but then when there's a moment in which you are done recording and you put out a song that I truly feel like that song doesn't belong to you anymore, and that story
Mm,
might be your story, but that doesn't mean that that's gonna be the reason why someone sees themselves in your song. So, like, the universality of that? I don't know, I think I just
mm.
made up a word, but universalness of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's cool. Um, I thought I saw it written that you said overtime is your favorite of the batch. Um, I don't know if that's true or not. Yes? No?
Yes, I would say that Overtime is, uh, to me and I know it's funny because it's my song and I produced it, but to me, Overtime is a perfect song in the way where, like, I think that it articulates what I want to sound like, um, in the most truthful way, in the closest I've ever gotten to how I feel like my music should sound.
Mm,
One reason why I ended up producing this record myself is because, like, in I think I have a real spirit of collaboration that sometimes leads me down the wrong path. And sometimes I'm willing to see through someone else's idea more so than speaking up for what or like voicing my contribution. So
mm,
sometimes in recording studios, I've found, especially expensive recording studios, when time um, is so important. In the sake of like moving forward with a project, sometimes I just like won't be like, oh, maybe we should try it this way, or like this isn't really feeling right, or like whatever those thoughts are. Whereas like with being able to produce this record myself, it was all on me. That meant that, like, the
mm,
deadlines were all on me, but then also, like, keeping uh, the, the sonic influences on point to, like, how I heard them in my head and, like and getting, musicians who work me to figure out what I was trying to say. And, thankfully, I have been working with the same musicians for a long time, and so we speak very like, our our musical English
mm.
like, they can really, like, read through the lines sometimes with some things when I'm trying to get there, and, yeah, so it's just I'm really, really proud of how Overtime sounds, and, uh, I think it's really cool that it's, like, was able to get that on like it's on Sirius Radio, Sirius XM, The Verge right now, and like that feels like a real like career milestone for me as an independent artist
Hmm.
to have a programmer like resonates so much with a song that like I produced. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty great. Um, yeah, I like just the way you express that, by the way. Like, I know, like, probably the thing I regret in the way I've tried to produce some of my own efforts or things like that have been that I frequently got caught saying this is good enough, either because of, like, you're right, because time pressures or money pressures, or often I was leaning on favors from people, which is sometimes the worst way to make a record because, again, you become conscious of how much you've used them. Um, and it's another reason to skip past rather than allow yourself the full ability to arrive at where you know your creative concept is going to be fulfilled and it's going to feel fulfilling and right all the way through,
Mhm.
right? And that rightness, you can't help but say, even if it's your own song, this is a perfect song because you knew when it was going to be perfectly aligned, right? And you had to get there.
And also as a producer, like I knew when it was done, which like
Yeah.
doesn't always happen.
Mhm.
I think that like records are called recordings because it is just a moment in time, and so like
Yeah.
it is okay to look back on an old recording and be like, oh, I would have like changed this, or I would have added this part. I hear this part in my head now, and I really wish that this section had this like lift or something like that. But like, maybe this will happen with over time, but, like, look I as, like, looking at it now, like, when I listen to it, I'm like, every arrangement aspect of it, I feel services the song. So as a producer, that's why to me, it's
Yeah.
a perfect song.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Um, the whole EP is, like, slated for a release date in April. Was it April
Mhm.
22nd, if I got the number
April
right?
24th.
4th, okay. April 24th, the Still Here EP. Is there more songs that we haven't heard
So
yet?
there
You've
is
released a
one more song
4.
that's gonna be, like, the focus track when the EP drops, so,
Okay.
the EP has 5 songs, but I will say that Still Here might not be done. It's coming out, but there's, I have a little something up my sleeve that,
Oh, good for you.
yeah, so, uh I have been working as a DJ, for the last 5 years, and so I kind of it's in the baby steps of the project, but there's gonna be some different interpretations coming out. Not by me, but, yeah,
Yeah,
there'll
no,
be
that
some
sounds really
interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, Getting to this point, like 20 years later, seeing a lot of things come and go in Vancouver, seeing the business change, as we talked about what the pandemic did for a reset for people, you choosing to produce this yourself, the business part of getting attention, like you said, it got on Sirius, which is pretty awesome. You've had success in the past with like some really great music placements on that last record. That's really hard as an independent. So how has it changed for you now, to be at this point and to think, okay, I got to keep finding new connections or fostering new connections and get this out. Like where are you at with that, as you face
Yeah.
getting your music out there again?
I mean, I think the thing that people don't realize about the music industry, or even as a musician, is like it is so heavily email based. You send so many emails in a
Ye
day. Um, it just, I guess, I would really love to have some of these songs find music placements as well. There's no guarantee, so all I can do is really like send it to folks who have expressed interest in hearing in the past or have supported me in the past, and you just kind of like really cross your fingers, hope for the best, follow up in a few weeks, know. But but that's the nature of the game. That is just like everyone knows that's kind of what you gotta do, and,
Yeah,
I'm also really trying to do this whole social media thing too. It's interesting, I lost my light there, but,
that's
it's
alright.
interesting. I'm trying to do TikTok. I still don't really know what my voice is on TikTok, but, like, sometimes the things that I've posted the most randomest, they are the ones that do the best. So try not to like give it too much brain space other than just like view it as an extension of stage. It's just an extension of just content. So everyone uses the word content. I like to use the word context. it's just giving context to, like, the music that you're making,
Yeah.
and, it gives people like, I'm a Jenny Lewis fan because I like her music, but I'm a real fan because of just, like, how she seems to present herself. I remember during the pandemic, there was a moment when everyone was doing Instagram lives, and her hairstylist, like, she cut her bangs, but, like, through the like, gave her tips on it was just, like, a cute
Yeah.
thing, but it was, like, it just inviting you into your world,
I love
right?
her socials. I think you're
Yeah.
completely right. Like she does it really, really well, right?
Mhm.
Like her,
Yeah.
I don't know how she got the Modelo thing going that everybody wants to
So
tag
funny.
her with their Modelo photos. They just tag Jenny Lewis and
It must have been just like a band
yeah,
joke or like a friend circle joke that just blew up, and, like, you can't plan those things, but it's like it's a cute moment, right?
very
So,
much so.
yeah,
Very much
it's
so.
fun.
Um, yeah, I think that's like I like that you said like you've been working with the same people. That was a question answered for me. Again, with the passage of time, you might find yourself as a solo artist having to continue to reinvent the people you play with too, right? That can come and go. So having some longevity with people you collaborate with and play with has got to be a real strength. I'm wondering what the plan is. I'm not asking you to have a plan past the record necessarily, but it's a different world about playing shows and getting out there. And I know you said you had so many big things lined up before the pandemic took the wind out of those sails. What's the approach this time around?
Um, I would like to, I'd like to play some BC festivals. For some reason, that's been a bit of a hard nut to crack, and maybe it's been because of the time lapse in between my records where, like, there's momentum and then
Hmm.
I'm off touring with somebody else for 2 years. But, yeah, so I'd really like to play some festivals in BC, and I don't know, right now my focus is, like, quite, um, Canada centric. Uh Financially, who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe there'll be some really cool opportunity down the line. I'm definitely trying to figure out, I'm trying to, like, get away from that aspect of, like, just applying for everything I come across
yeah.
and, like, trying to do it more intentionally, but, um, yeah, just
Well,
whoever invites me out. Someone invite me out.
Rifflandia's right there, and it feels like such a good fit. I don't know how they don't figure it out. They should
Yeah,
figure
maybe
it
this
out.
is the year. Maybe
Maybe
this is
this
the
is
year.
it. Maybe
Yeah.
this is it. Okay, I really appreciate your time. I got one more fun game to play, and I'm hoping you'll don't mind playing along with me. That it won't feel like you're choosing favorites over potential friends. But we were joking. I was when I was putting all this together and just realizing, like we talked about this a little earlier about you being in Vancouver in a couple eras of a lot of kind of the indie band life of sort of different genres inside that have just exploded and been out there. And I'm sure you've crossed paths with a lot of these people. But you know how they do like the thing on like a TikTok where they'll be like they'll just start naming celebrities to another celebrity person and they have to be like who they would be like Leo, Leo or somebody else. And then they'd be like, oh, I picked Leo or they, you know,
You just
anyhow.
choose between the 2,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just yeah. Who do you like more?
So I'm hoping you'd play along and have fun because it gives us a chance to name a whole bunch of interesting acts that have come out of Vancouver too. And then I'm just
Okay.
curious how you feel. Okay, so I'm gonna go way back and start with Said the Whale or Hey Ocean.
I'm gonna say Said the Whale, only because they once asked me to play keyboards for them, and I really, really appreciate that they reached out to me. I had just finished a solo record, so
Oh, that's cool.
I said no. I could have had a Juno, but but I do love them both.
That's
I've actually
fantastic.
worked with people in both bands, but
Yeah,
that's hard. Start with a
I
hard
know that's
one.
a hard one. I know that. I figured some of these are going to be a little closer to home. Okay, Hey Ocean, or sorry, you said the Whale. Said the Whale or Japandroids?
Japandroids. Those are
Oh,
my guys.
I love Japandroids. Those are your
Yeah.
guys. Okay, so this will be fun how
Yeah,
it
my
stacks up.
partner plays in a band with the drummer of Japandroids right now,
Okay,
so yeah.
awesome. Okay, I'll put you up against a heavy hitter then. Japandroids or the new pornographers?
Japandroids.
Oh, I love it. Okay, Japandroids or Yukon Blonde?
Why? These are hard. These are all my friends.
This is how good the Vancouver scene has been. This is my point.
Okay, at this point, I'm gonna say Yukon Blonde only because there's more of them.
That's true. The numbers,
The
Japan
numbers win.
is a duo only. So yeah, that's fair. That's a fair way to lose. Okay, Yukon Blonde or Destroyer?
I'm gonna go with Yukon Blonde.
Okay. Yukon Blonde or Dan Mangan?
Yukon Blonde.
Okay. Or Deer Rouge?
Yukon Blonde.
Sweet. Yukon Blonde or the Zolas?
I've toured with the Zolas before. They're very nice guys. I'm still gonna say Yukon Blonde.
I love it.
I like their groovy tunes.
I love it. Okay, let's go a little off of that then. Or Jasper, Sloan, Yip.
Literally, you're naming all of my friends.
I know. I figured I would be. This is why it would be fun.
Yukon Blonde is like really rising to the top here.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with like loving who you love, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How about Peach Pit? Yukon Blonde or
Do
Peach
you
Pit?
know that I played with Peach Pit for their very first show at a
Really?
venue in Vancouver called Sweet Pup. It was like an art studio, and Peach Pit were so sweet. They like brought a PA because the studio didn't have a PA, so they brought a PA, monitors, soundboard, all the stuff, and like 3 people showed up.
Oh,
But they're so sweet. They brought everything.
that's part of the story for everybody. That's fun.
I'm gonna say Yukon Blonde.
Love it. Okay, just 2 more. I should have sprinkled these 2 in because they're kind of this very similar band and more current. But Yukon Blonde or Fake Shark?
Yukon Blonde. Let's see if it's
The last one is Yukon Blonde or Hotel Mira?
Yukon Blonde.
Sweet, we have a winner. You know what I should have done? I should have made you pick between Fake Shark and Hotel
bands
Mira.
with women in them.
Well, you're completely correct. I should have thrown in like I didn't even throw in Louise Burns, who's like clearly popular in there, or
Tegan and Sarah.
or well, are they?
Cuff.
Does Vancouver claim them? Because Calgary is pretty ferocious in claiming Tegan
West
and
Coast
Sarah.
claims them. They live here.
That's interesting.
So,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right. Well, then I could say Nickelback too, and Hannah Alberta would get mad at us for throwing Nickelback in there. But that's where
Does
Chad
Nickelback
Kroger's.
live in
Well, Chad's lived out there forever, I think. But at least he used to be famous for driving his Hummer around. Who?
The Organ would have won over everybody.
Really?
The Organ.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't even crack. I could have just cracked open that Light Organ Records or 6 or 4, and so many people are on those too. Mm-hmm. But thanks for the kick in the ass that I didn't think that I didn't have enough female representation. That's a good call. I'll do better. I should have thrown they're all in another band, like New Pornographers or Hey Ocean or Said the Whale. I could have thrown O.C. Elliott in there too, but that was fun. I love that you know so many of these people. That's kind of what I was hoping, and I figured it would make it not like you were pitting people against each other, but just struggling over liking people so much, which is very charming, by the way. So
you had to see someone have a personal
exactly. Yeah, without knowing a personality, I could have sent somebody into a meltdown of having to make that choice.
Yeah, I'm like, who's going to get mad at me now?
Yeah. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate the time to do this, Jody, and to catch up with you, and also just be able to talk about your career and your new record coming out. And I love the fact that you remain hopeful all the time, and that it comes through in the stuff that you're doing and making. And I'm glad that you're a lifer, and so that I can look forward to still seeing you come up with new things. And I also think Overtime is my favorite on the track so far. So
it's a banger. It just, I feel like it has the right cathartic release.
I love it when a song feels like it's still just getting going at the end, like you did a thing with it at the end, and it feels like it gets better towards the end even, and you usually expect some sort of a rise and a fall. So I think that was really well done. So I'm really happy that we got a chance to talk. Thanks for taking the time and sharing all of this, and I wish you all the best with the release coming up.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for challenging my friendships. Nice to chat with you, Glenn.
Yeah, it was really great. Appreciate you. Thanks.
Hey, I'm Alexi. Stick around for post-fame with me and my dad.
Welcome back to
You don't have to say welcome back. It doesn't have to be like a welcome back. Like,
Oh, my bad. Welcome to.
remember in podcast world, like technically every episode stands alone. People may just come and listen to one thing ever.
Welcome to Post Fame with Alexi. And if you're not new here, welcome back to Post Fame with Alexi. And if it's your first time, just welcome too.
Okay, now it sounds like we're like at like laser tag, and they're like, you got the whole group of kids, and they're like,
Oh my goodness.
doing that whole
We were
thing.
talking
Or
about,
not
like,
laser tag. What's the fun place we went to? The new laser tag, that games place where it was all puzzly.
puzzly things.
What was that called?
Oh,
It was like start with an R, didn't it?
no.
Yeah, I think it did. Oh my goodness, it's gonna drive me crazy.
Look at on the Google Maps.
If people are listening, I'm curious if they have in other cities the same sort of thing. So it's like a bunch of rooms, and you have wristbands that like automatically keep track of your scores, and one room may all be like different like lighting up puzzles on the wall that you have to play as a team, and another one may be different like basketball throwing challenges, and
Why can't
another
you
one
find it?
remember was like laser games.
Yeah, it was.
It was in South Common.
Yeah, that's where I am.
It's like where there used to be that funky store by the Dollarama and the
Oh, let me
wherever
search.
the Marshalls are. What are you doing now? Why'd you leave the map?
It's okay.
Oh, I just can't believe we're doing this in real time. This isn't great podcast material, Lulu.
Activate.
Oh, it's not an R. Activate. You win. Anyhow, I'm just wondering if people have that in their town too, because it was like really cool. People should Google Activate in Edmonton and tell me whether they've ever been to anything like it before, because I was surprised, except that I had that bad foot from an injury, and it really hampered
That is the voice they use, though.
15% of my...
That's like all my customer service friends. We talk about our server voice versus like not. And it's like so different. And I'm like, you would never want me to use my server voice on here.
It's like having a radio voice.
Yeah, 100%.
I used to always joke about trying to put on a radio voice or a preacher voice or any of those.
Yeah.
Anyhow, the whole point of that is here we are at
Episode
40.
30 million.
40.
Oh,
No.
sorry.
Okay. And I just gave a great big right before the number, and I'm mad about that. Like, I'm still working on that. 40 episodes in.
And there's still
You wouldn't believe how many I still take out of all the episodes. Maybe
have
I
you
should
seen like
shouldn't
how
tell
people
people
make fun of like the actually people? You're just one of them now.
that. Just kidding. I don't do the actually part.
Okay.
This is for Jody Glenham.
Yes.
Another, I guess, technically old friend, which I've covered a lot of bases of that through the 3 seasons so far. This one felt a little bit unique and had been on my mind for a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember hearing about, I think maybe like you asking her or her saying yes, like quite a while ago.
Well, it wasn't that long ago, but I probably brought up, because we talk once in a while about what my ideas are, and I probably brought her up in that way. Just, yeah, I think there's just people from my life that sort of represent different aspects of the music industry the way I want to represent them on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I hope that they'll say yes and tell their story. And their story may have changed even a bit from the way I perceived it, which I'm completely open to having happen. I think that's fun and exciting too. But yeah, that's just a thing that I was looking forward to and probably had slipped my mind a little. And then, just good old social media scrolling, just realized that she had new music coming out, and I was like, "Oh, this is perfect timing." So yeah.
I like that. Okay, well I have 2 things.
Okay.
That's my for the night.
That's your things?
Well no. The
You
first one,
have multiple by the way. I'm the editor.
it's okay.
I know it.
But it's like awesome and cool and nice when I do it. And it's just annoying when you do it.
Oh.
I've decided, by the way. My first one.
Yes.
If you Okay, we talked about this episode a little bit off camera earlier. So you can't just use the same thing. Like you have
I'll
to be
try.
original. But if you had to describe this episode in 1 to 2 words, what would they be?
We didn't discuss this
No, but
before.
you were describing some of it, and I was just like, cause like, when you make the titles and you do your intro, like, you think of things to, like, use as little, like,
Oh, I
statements,
see.
and
I
you
was
were
describing how I kinda went about that this
yeah, but
time.
I'm like, "Don't just use the same thing you already told me.
Oh,
Be unique."
okay, can you repeat that really quick?
Okay,
Use
1
just
to 2
describe.
words to
Okay.
describe the entire episode. If you really need 3 'cause you have a
Oh
really good
my
one, you're allowed
goodness.
it.
This is like, how do you think that this was even gonna be possible? Did you just come up with this right now?
No,
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Because it feels a little unfair.
Thank you
1
for
to
asking me
2
that.
if I'm desperate, 3 to describe the entire episode?
Yeah,
I would have to say I'm gonna give you 3.
okay. I can be okay with that.
Good reality check.
Mm, that's my stamp of approval, by the way.
Okay, that sound.
Yeah,
That's what that was?
yeah, that was me thinking about it, and you get my stamp of
Okay.
approval. That's a good you know what? And I thought maybe you were gonna give, like, a very cliche answer, like, about, like, go down the feminist route and be like, you know, feminist working class or, like,
No, that
one
probably
of
would have been in the AI notes that I got generated from
yeah,
you.
but I was like, "Don't go down that route."
Did it? I can't even remember. I just copied and
Well, my
pasted really
second
quick.
thing is the notes again.
Did
Okay,
the
we're going
AI
there.
notes that I gave
Listen,
you
can
get
you read
all
them?
over the I didn't
Oh my
read
goodness.
them
Okay.
this time,
So for
no.
anyone who didn't listen to the last episode, my dad started using AI to profile me, unfairly, by the way.
I
And
didn't
then
use it to profile you.
you profiled me
I
in
used it
AI.
to be helpful in generating some
I
talking
was getting
points
there.
for you.
He makes
When
talking
you're
points.
busy with exams and stuff, I'm trying to help you. I just had to
No,
use your profile to help
I appreciate
AI
it so much,
understand
but I
you.
get profiled. Okay.
We all are. That's the only way AI is gonna understand us in a
Listen, though,
prompt.
the ones last week were crazy, and then this week almost tops it. Here's the thing there's 4.
How
Okay.
big is the gap between crazy and unhinged when you say the word crazy?
Well, I mean wild, first of all. I'm trying to correct my language lately.
Okay.
But I would say more unhinged is
Oh,
probably better maybe.
okay, that
Maybe a
is
little bit silly.
okay.
Um,
Yikes. Okay, go ahead.
okay, so there's 4. The bottom 3 are honestly, you know what? I like them. I'll give it to you this time. I like them
Okay.
cuz um the bottom 3 are all about like Alexi might want to highlight the importance of female-led production spaces and you know, um Alexi might want to talk about, just the savvy social justice feminist angle on reclaiming agency. And I'm like, you know what? I would say when I get on my soapbox, usually it's about some angle of feminism. So I can, you know what? I can be okay with that. The first one, however, the first one, it's the Fluevog connection and corporate responsibility.
Oh, really?
Okay. And this is how it starts it off. Usually because it like describes them as like Alexi might do this. No. It starts off by saying, Alexi loves boutique shops. End sentence. Like, I was like, "Okay." And then it says, "She'd be interested in how a cult favorite brand, like John Fluevog, offered artist grants for screenwriting and studio space. It's a great example of how businesses can authentically support local subcultures and female creators."
All of that is so
It's
true.
so true, but I was like, "What did you feed it
I
for it to
fed it
be like"
literally that. You like vintage clothes shopping and boutique cafes and shops
I think it's
over
so
top
funny.
of like mainstream
Am I raging? Okay,
like
well, yeah.
cultured brands.
No, I agree. Um,
Unless they're like Mount McCormick Co-op Patagonia type brands.
yeah, and
Then
you're
you sell
valid.
yourself out in a heartbeat.
Don't say that. Um,
That was all completely accurate. And that's exactly what's so cool about the thing with
it was
the connection with John Fluevog. Like,
okay. I'm not saying it was inaccurate. I was just saying that's just a wild one to
well, I don't know
pull.
how that comes close to unhinged, but
I think it's just like unhinged in a silly way. Um, but I have a follow-up question
oh,
regarding it. Is like she provided a really, really good example of like, a company and like a corporate like space providing that for artists.
yes.
And I think like one thing people say about like Edmonton and its like arts scene is that like that's one thing that Edmonton does really well. And I was thinking, like, do you, off the top of your head, have another example or just, like, one of your favorite examples of like, a similar thing? Like, a company that you think did it really, really well, or, like, a space or a company or person or, like, something in Edmonton that you think really, like, hit the home run in terms of, like, providing that space for artists or, like, doing something that, like, you know, had your own stamp of approval, like, that you can
No,
think
that's a
back
good
on?
point. So here's the thing is like while it's really, really great, there is not great support financially, like just straight financial dollars from a privatized private company
Mm,
entity that hardly exists anywhere, which is why. And again, she made it really clear that this wasn't just music related, it was arts in general, which I think is on point with John Fluevog
mhm,
and probably how you would see it, like, because let me put it this way, like, everybody knows, like, there's massive donorship in the arts community, like, if you try to go to the big theaters or opera or you know what I mean? Any of these places, you'll see plaques all along where the families with a whole lot of money
mhm,
that loved going to these things made very large donations. Sometimes the entire wing or the reception is named
yeah,
after them or whatever to match their donation level. And I'm not taking it away. I'm not, from the rich, whatever.
yeah,
Like private people are supporting the arts. In fact, as much as we hear about the crutch on the arts from government, the truth is like a lot of the arts organizations and things out there heavily rely and are wonderfully supported by the private sector. Music, however, I feel struggles in that area unless it's traditional music, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
traditional venues, traditional like forms, presentation, youth orchestra, whatever these things might be. So this whole world of like the struggling individual artist, a big part, I know that I'm going a bit of a rabbit hole here, but
okay,
what is relevant to me is that we're talking and living in an ecosystem like everything mostly that I talk about on the show, with some exceptions, and everything I grew up in and strive to be inside of, that silo was full of solo entrepreneurs,
mm,
not people trying to build community entities and businesses, if I
yeah,
can put it that way. Like every artist ends up being in a solo entrepreneurship. So much so that I was the chair of the board for one organization for a really long time in Edmonton that had a whole bunch of money to give away, but it was created on this premise like 25 years ago of not grants, but like loans,
mm,
because that made sense to a lot of these other organizations about how things worked. And when I tried to explain how these kinds of things would never work in the music scene that I come out of, in the music business, I said, because we're all essentially like solo entrepreneurs and, we just can't operate in $50,000 loans for this kind of stuff.
yeah,
Anyhow, um, also all that to say, when your question is like, how is there example in Edmonton? I struggle to find one that's equal to the John Fluevog off the top of my head.
yeah,
Now, quickly, I'll say what I have seen a lot of is where it's not like the cash grant, like we're just going to invest in you. It's
mhm,
often like forming some version of a partnership, like everybody's sort of getting something back. But the ones that do it the best over the number of years have been a lot of these like up and coming craft breweries.
oh, yeah,
You know what I mean? So, um, there's been a number of these, and there's one that I wanna say right off the bat that is not Edmonton-based, it's Alberta-based, and I should remember, and I'm mad that I don't, not because 'cause they've had their name on things for years, like, I'm talking 15 years.
wow,
Big Rock? Maybe it's Big
oh,
Rock.
probably Big Rock, yeah,
Has done an amazing job in Edmonton, like, lately, like, Sea Change and
mhm,
all that group. I mean, they're mostly made up of people who have been musicians and had careers locally, and but they've done a really great job of partnering and providing places and opportunity and getting behind things. So they do a really great job all the time. And I think now they're even starting to, with the pop up of all these breweries wanting to have sort of front facing stores and little like gathering spaces, eating and drinking. They're turning those into like live music venues. That's where I went to see Eamon McGrath at the end of season 2.
There's a new one that's really, like, coming up in Edmonton called Frank's.
Yeah, I heard about
Yeah,
it, and they're having
and they
one of
have
the newer open stages. That's up
so
99th,
much.
right? Like,
Yeah,
just before the
yeah.
yeah.
They have so much, like, Eric went they had a jazz night, they have tons of, like, not even, like, open mic, cause it's, like, scheduled people and it's, like, they have their own little,
Yeah.
like, sets and shows and stuff, but they have become, like, almost like a third space in that sense where it's, like, yeah, you can, like, eat and drink there, but then they have these nights where it's, like, you can come and it's, like,
Yeah, and I think what people would
designated.
need to understand is, like, they're not most of the time. I mean, I've seen some really bad examples of artists being taken advantage of, but most of the time, these places are not getting a big benefit and kickback by having
Mm-mm.
artists come in and play. They're usually losing money on the nights. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a sacrifice to be involved and partner with something that they believe in,
Mhm.
which is why I really admire that so often these are the places that are keeping sort of that culture alive.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I really appreciate that about them. So that's a long-winded way to get around to what I've seen going on, but just to give a larger context to my answer.
Mhm.
Anyhow,
I like that.
um, I want to say then I had one bit that I wanted to say.
Oh.
Even though we've been going for a little while, I wanted to make this shorter, but that's okay. I just wanted to like say, like, because I told you a little bit about my intro,
Yes.
and I made a point of saying in my intro that what's mostly, if you want to call it this way, unfair to Jody is that a large majority of people I've had on the podcast probably have lived what we would call the middle class music industry.
Yeah.
Like artist number one was Dan Mangan, who's had all kinds of success, right?
Yeah.
And he's kind of called himself the middle class as well for a
Mhm.
long time too. Like the range of middle class is huge,
Yeah, I was
right?
gonna say, yeah.
And everyone has their own, obviously, versions of what we would call success or air quote making it and all that kind of stuff. But I was aware that the analogy I wanted to make could come off as a backhanded compliment, which isn't necessarily fair to use Jody's episode to pull that out, except that she, to me, is this perfect example of somebody who is really good at what they do, has built their community around them, doesn't have all the numbers that people may jump at to say, like, what they would call like super successful or whatever
Mhm.
they want to use for that reason, like most of the artists. And yet, like, so much value that she's provided, like so much like great things she's done in her life and with her career and helped other people's careers that is so noteworthy. I guess I thought, like, if I was going to run a risk on somebody else like that with that much kind of truth or vulnerability,
Yeah.
I should be willing to sort of provide my own too and not like hide
Mhm.
from it. So I think what I wanted to say was what I wanted to say was that I recognize what it takes for everybody I'm talking to have made the choices that they did. Like I even had an interview just recently, right, with somebody who very respected, has had like quite a bit of quote unquote success, over a pretty decent time career now, and still danced around some of the vulnerable questions about how they define that for
Yeah.
themselves, because it's so much perception based, that everybody has the reasons that they do or don't make the choices that they make that we don't always see. We just sort of line them all up against each other.
Yeah.
And I guess for me to be really clear that like I'm in this camp every time I'm talking to somebody, where I get left. Sometimes I don't get left with it. Sometimes I'm in the middle of it during the conversation of going right back to wrestling with what I've wrestled with my entire life, which is all I wanted to do was be a rock star.
Yeah.
And since the time I was in high school, and I got a lot of years of chasing that dream that were like really like it was like I could taste it on my tongue type idea
Yeah.
without being quote unquote fulfilled. But it was great. And I loved every opportunity that I had. And I also made choices that sort of pulled me back and out from that
Yeah.
for reasons that everybody would tell me were super, super valid. And I could at different times just kind of ride that. Do you know what I mean? When I'm in conversations with people, I hate sometimes, this is where I'm trying to be more vulnerable and say, I hate being the guy on the other side of the conversation, talking to them because I wish that I was more their equal peer.
Yeah, like you wish you were in that seat.
Like I'm having a conversation with a lot of people, like I'm their peer. And if
Yeah.
I'm being really honest, like I always still have imposter syndrome. I still always wrestle with that vulnerability of admitting like I didn't get where I wanted to. And it's not just for all the reasons that were good reasons everybody would tell me that I chose to pull back when I did. You know, family, career, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of it still stemmed from just a lack of self-belief, which everybody I talk to who sticks in it will always talk about how you have to just keep believing in yourself and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm gonna like I get left with regrets, right?
Yeah.
And that's normal in life, I think. I don't talk about it a lot because I would rather look like I was in control of the ship all the way through and I know everything that I was doing and every choice was calculated and great and curated and my life is wonderful and my life is wonderful.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't like I don't want to be deceptive about the fact that I have the imposter syndrome and I wish that I had had more belief in myself at a time that it felt maybe more crucial. And I admire every single one of these people for what they do and how much they've sacrificed
Yeah.
to stick with it. And I called the episode that Jody Glenham is a lifer. And I super admire Jody for having just stuck with it and being able to say so like enthusiastically that she was a lifer, you know?
Yeah.
And that she's really happy with everything. And I just want to make that, I think, really clear because I felt it was important for me to honestly introduce the episode the way I did. I also think it's important, that I just like, if we're just going to line everybody up based on perception sometime against each other, I should put myself in the line too and be truthful about where I stand.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that makes sense, I guess is my question. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's all.
And you're valid.
You say that about everything, so I don't know whether it really means anything anymore. That's like your new catchword.
No. It's true
Catchphrase.
though.
But anyhow, so I appreciated Jody's honesty and vulnerability as well throughout, and honestly, like all the guests who come on and
Are willing to just
willing to just kind of
themselves out
spill
there.
and talk and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Good luck with exams.
I need it.
We'll be back again next week. Same channel for another episode
Unless
of
you're gonna be a first timer.
No,
then
unless
just
you're a
welcome.
first timer and then hope you're back. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.